Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided. This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy is sponsored by Thomson Reuters, providing legal professionals with the intelligence, technology, and human expertise they need to find trusted answers. Products include Westlaw, Practical Law, and Firm Central legal practice management software for small law firms. Thomson Reuters, the answer company. Online at thomsonreuters.com. Access to Democracy is made possible in part by a donation from Firefly Credit Union. Firefly is the new name of U.S. Federal Credit Union, which has proudly served the financial needs of the Greater Twin Cities community since 1925. At Firefly, we guide our members forward and give them the power to chase dreams by delivering the financial solutions they need to get ahead. From checking accounts to mortgages, we'll light the way. We are Firefly Credit Union, and this is Life Illuminated. And Dr. Charles Crutchfield of award-winning Crutchfield Dermatology in Egan, acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. A Minnesota native who trained at the Mayo Clinic, Dr. Crutchfield personally treats all patients and states that experience counts and quality matters. Crutchfield Dermatology. Look good, feel great, with beautiful skin.
Welcome, welcome. Access to Democracy is back with a longtime guest, former mayor of Egan, which is where we first met 15 years ago.
I know, we're getting old.
Pat Anderson. Speak for yourself. And Pat has since gone on to many things. She had served as State Auditor, was mayor of Egan, a member of the Republican National Committee. She was always lacking any kind of foresight in that regard. Ended up voting for Donald Trump, which we won't talk about. But
one of the deplorables, right?
One of the deplorables. What can I say? And in terms of being an entrepreneur, you just informed us that you're opening a place of business in the Commons. So bring us up to date with that.
I am. Well, if you remember 15 years ago, but back to my background, I came from a business background. I had a company in Egan when I was on the council and mayor, which I had sold when I was elected auditor. So I've kind of gone back that way. As you get older, you learn your strengths and weaknesses, right? And
I'm still working on it.
So I have opened the franchises, but it's a bunch of European wax centers around the Twin Cities over the last 3 years, and I'm opening in Egan finally. I've been waiting for this site for years, waiting for this development to
And
to
what
come
is the
in.
European Wax Center? Let's talk about it.
European Wax Center is it is franchise. There's probably 500 now. We're growing rapidly across the nation, but we do waxing, so you can come in and get your back waxed, Alan. That's what we do for guys.
I don't want my back waxed. A
But
good, good massage.
Well, Massage Envy is going to be right next to us, so they're moving across over there. But it's just the way it is.
So when will you be in?
Well, we're in one of those little buildings across from Ulta that are under construction. If you go over there, it's where all the fencing is in. I think we'll be open in March, maybe April, probably. So we haven't taken possession. There's no roof on the building. There's no as of right now. So it'll take a while. It takes a while to do the build outs. But we're really excited. That whole development, I know it took a long time. There was a lot of, negotiation between the council and the developer.
It's a terrific development.
It's going to be fantastic. Just a great site. And
have you had dinner at Hy-Vee yet?
No, but I have been in Hy-Vee. So, and that's an incredible grocery store.
It really is.
Yeah. And all the things around it. My new favorite place is the Hobby Lobby, which has got amazing.
I won't-
I had never been in one.
I
But,
won't set foot in there because of their political.
oh, I don't know their politics.
Oh,
Are they on my side?
no, they're probably far to the right of you,
Oh, well, okay.
if that's possible.
No wonder I like them, right? But that's a great store. It's like a Michael's on steroids, so it's good.
Now, have you been in the new Viking Stadium yet?
I have not.
Okay.
My husband has, my son has, lots of friends have, but I have not.
Have you been following what really the sports facility is going through at the present time?
No, but I know about all the financing. Remember the
Okay.
whole Racino versus the pull tabs versus, and in the end, the taxpayers are paying for it.
Well, the taxpayers paid half of that stadium, $500 million. But beyond that, 2 of the luxury suites went to the sports facility. And of course,
Which is a government agency.
yes,
Yep.
and they are public employees.
Right.
The 2 that are running it, and in fact, one of whom has been a guest on this show.
Yep.
Now, through some digging that apparently a reporter did for the Star Tribune, it seems that these 2 luxury facilities, which are there to bring business into the state and to entertain people, have been used for the last few weeks gratis for friends and officials of the 2 people, Mondale and Michelle Helmkel, whatever it was.
Yeah, the old chief of staff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And they've been given freebies.
Yeah.
And of course, when it was exposed, then all these people immediately had to pay $200 for each ticket that they got. But
Yeah, it's a serious ethics violation.
and yeah,
Yeah.
I just wrote an article,
Yeah.
which may, I understand, be in the Pioneer Press within the next few days, in which I called for the 2 of them, including the person who's been a guest on this show, to be fired. So remember you.
I will. I'll watch that.
But
It's going to be a
It's-
question for the governor, obviously.
yeah,
Yeah.
he said he's getting the facts together on it now,
Yeah.
and I think the facts are pretty blatant, and I look upon it as a absolutely sheer abuse of power.
Yeah, clearly.
I started my article off by saying, when will they ever learn? Oh, when will they ever learn? Because it's the same type of political giveaway that we have had on both sides of the aisle. And I just think it's outrageous.
Yeah, and I think,
Particularly because I was never invited.
well, I can say something positive for Dayton. I think Dayton understands the ethical issues. I would be surprised if he didn't do something about it. But I think this also leads into the whole Trump phenomenon and the whole drain the swamp, argument that was made, that people shout at rallies and even louder than the lock her up with
He's
Hillary.
going to drain the swamp, so he put in a lot of bankers, including Goldman Sachs, a lot of longtime politicians, a lot of Washington, really veterans. How can you drain the swamp when you're in the swamp?
Yeah, well,
Right.
I'm not going to defend Trump's cabinet picks yet. We'll see. It's going to go wide. I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see what is done in the first 100 days. I think there's about to be a very large change in this country.
I hope
Yeah.
that the country can endure 2 years of Trump, because I don't think he's going to last. I think he has the Sarah Palin syndrome. He'll be gone
We'll see.
before his
We'll
term
see.
is up.
We'll see. I would very much disagree.
And
So we all said that about Dayton 6 years ago.
I
My
didn't say
side,
it.
Well, my side did. We said that, that he would.
he put his timeline out there, and he's stuck to it. And I think he's a very ethical and moral man. But
Trump or Dayton?
Dayton, but that doesn't excuse all the people, really thousands of people in government who work
Yeah,
for him.
Right.
any more than it does with the federal government, any more than it does with state government.
Yeah.
And now, by the way, both houses are controlled by the Republicans in the state, so what do you foresee for that?
Well, this has happened before. I think it was 2010 when Dayton was first elected, and we ended up in a special session, if you remember, in the budget, and that may or may not happen again, but you're going to have that same kind of horse trading and negotiating going on maybe until the very end again. So we'll see, but it isn't any different than what happened in 2010.
So what's Pat Anderson's next quest for office?
I have none. I really don't. Maybe down the road, maybe. I was happy to be active with my party somewhat this year. I was a national delegate again. I was a Rubio delegate, and we were bound by our, by what we were. So I voted for Rubio at the national convention. I think Trump only had 3 or 4 of Minnesota delegates. It was a real small number that he had won originally, even though he almost won the state. That was pretty amazing.
He did a very smart thing by coming in here 2 days before the election.
Yeah.
Well, as opposed to Hillary, who once she got the nomination,
she just
won
ignored
the primary.
it. Yeah.
We never
She ignored
saw
the
her
entire upper Midwest. And
I was a Bernie supporter from the get-go. I ended up voting for Hillary as really the only answer to Trump, and that didn't work out too well. But and I worry about not only his lack of experience, but his lack of concentration, his ignorance of the Constitution, his ignorance of what really this nation stands for.
Well, we'll see.
But if he's going to make an appointment to the Supreme Court, I hope it's David Strauss.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, we'll see. We've got to give him time and see what happens. I voted for Trump, and I was on that Anybody But Hillary panel, and it wasn't just because she was a Democrat. It was because I believe we need to drain the swamp very much, and it's all the ethical issues, not surrounding her, but also...
You had a lot of libertarian
I
leanings.
do. Right. Yep. And I voted for Ross Perot, I can tell you. I mean, I haven't always been a straight line.
I mean, you wanted to do away
Republican.
with education. You wanted to do away with policing. You wanted
Not
to do
police.
it.
No. I'm not that extreme. I just think
Health.
that government is best, that's logical, that governs best, that isn't trying to, kind of how the way the city of Egan was run, and I think still is somewhat.
Well, since you've been there, as long as you bring that up, we have people from both political persuasions in office in the city of Egan, and yet it is run on such a nonpartisan level.
And that's the way it should be.
And it has been so successful, tax-wise and otherwise.
Right.
For those of you who don't have as long a memory as I do, going back to the 800-year flood, when Pat was our mayor, she actually dove right into it. And there are pictures of her standing in the swirling water, which is one of the things that endeared you to me as a public official.
Well, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, but you didn't just talk it, you acted it. And that made such a difference.
Right. And I think that's not to get back to Donald Trump, but I think that is the hope of a lot of the people that supported him, especially the working class that supported him, that he will do the same thing. And I think you kind of saw that with the air conditioning company, whatever, Carrier. Yesterday.
Started in Syracuse, my
really
alma mater. Yes.
But I think I think that is the hope, and what's been happening so long in this country from both the right and the left is that there's a lot of promises and nothing happens.
What he did, I agree on both sides.
Right.
What he did, he was going to charge a 35% tariff on everything coming back into the country if they moved away. He forgot about that yesterday. What he did was using Mike Pence in a very, very
I'm aware of what he did. It was not super libertarian, that's for sure.
They gave
money.
$7 million to Carrier to keep 100 jobs here
No, it's 1,000. It's 1,000.
It's actually
It's actually a significant.
850.
Yeah, it's
But
pretty significant.
They're moving
Yeah.
1,300
Yeah.
to Mexico.
Yeah.
And I understand Carrier has another plant nearby where they're moving 1,000 to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
But it made for great television, and if there's one thing that Trump understands,
Yeah.
it's getting media attention.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
his hatred of the press is really frightening to me. His lack of understanding of constitutional rights is frightening to me. And I can only hope that some of the people who surround him are not Steve Bannon's right-wing bigots,
Yeah.
but people of intelligence. So far, I haven't seen it.
Oh, I can tell you, Reince, his chief of staff, is incredibly intelligent. He's a Midwestern guy. He's from Wisconsin. I know him, fairly well personally. He's a good guy, and you just got to give it. Alan, you're so partisan. You just got to give him a little bit of time and see, and maybe we'll all be upset, a couple of years from now. But I am, and I wasn't a Trump supporter, as we talked about.
We know
way
that.
down my list. But I am thrilled that a outsider is the president after all of the things that are going on. And I think people want action. Everyone
I've
from all sides, they want to
also
deal with all these issues.
Written articles about the fact that the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, really
Screwed up.
they really screwed Bernie.
Oh, absolutely they did.
They
Yeah.
really did
Two of them
everything
in a
they
row.
could.
Both of the
I had
chairs.
called
Yeah.
last Christmas, I wrote an article, and I guess we talked about it here, not you and I, but
Mm-hmm.
calling for Debbie Wasserman Schultz to be fired
Mm-hmm.
because of the fact that she created an uneven playing field, made it almost impossible the way she structured
Yeah.
things for Bernie to win.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, it's been proven true time and again with all these WikiLeaks exposures.
Yeah. I think this is, I wasn't anybody, but I thought the Clintons are so corrupt. They're so, it's just bad. They're bad. I couldn't believe that we would actually elect somebody who is that corrupt.
See, I don't see her as corrupt.
Oh, I absolutely do. I think
I
the Clinton
see her as
Foundation
a-
is, and not the emails necessarily, but I think it's the Clinton Foundation.
I think,
It's
has
so-
done marvelous things.
Wow.
And they didn't take any money out of it, as opposed to the Trump Foundation, which paid off
I'm
some
not going
of
to
his
defend Donald.
obligations.
I'm not going to defend Donald Trump, so I'm not.
But,
But I understand why it happened.
Clinton Foundation has helped millions of people in some of these really poor countries.
Well, I hope so, because they've taken in billions of dollars from Saudi
And-
oil kings and everyone
Well,
else.
that's fine.
But
If
we won't,
they
we won't
take
rehash
that
it.
money,
We'll
if
find
they
out.
take that money
Yeah.
and use it for really good, charitable, beneficial purposes, I'm all for it. I would even be for it if Trump did something similar, which only thing he's taken care of so far is Trump. But let's get off of
Yeah, let's
Trump.
get off of
That's,
that.
really-
Let's get off.
it's,
We're never going to agree on that. We did agree that Bernie was a better candidate than Clinton. We did agree on
We
that.
did.
Yeah.
We did.
Yep.
And it would have been a great race. Bernie
It would have been
against
very
Trump.
interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they both have similar trade views. They both have similar, Wall Street views.
The
They both
difference
have
with
the drain the
Bernie
swamp views.
Is he's had these views for 40 years, and he's been campaigning for the same thing for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is sort of latter day in that regard, and Hillary only moved to the left because Bernie was making
Because
such
she had
inroads.
to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we'll see now. The Democrats have a platform. A very interesting thing is happening today because Keith Ellison is a candidate for the new chairman
Yeah.
of the DNC, and I support him unequivocally. And he's being attacked really by the Zionist right, if I can use that expression. A lot of Jewish organizations.
I thought you were Jewish.
I
Aren't you
am.
Jewish? Yeah.
I am, and I disagree with them absolutely in this regard. They are attacking Ellison with the same types of falsehoods that have been utilized in the campaign, in the presidential campaign.
Yeah.
He is not anti-Semitic. He is a supporter of Israel. He has a track record in that. To go back 20 years, and look at something he said about Farrakhan, give the man credit that he has grown. And
isn't that the same argument for Donald Trump?
oh, that's what some people
Right?
use.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Same argument.
Keith has been really all over the country. He gets the attention of young people. He brings people in. He's been a great organizer. And I'm going to be really, really, I can't use the word
Yeah.
today, if he is not elected as head of the DNC, particularly because the Obama and Clinton forces are the ones that are against him. And
Are they? Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know the internal there better than I do, obviously. That wouldn't surprise me that they would be against him. Certainly. I mean, he is.
he's got a
you
lot
know,
of,
he
he's got
comes
a lot
from the
of
left.
union support.
Right. He comes from the left,
And,
and Clinton. Although I don't know what poll Clinton has anymore.
I don't know. now.
Obama, of course. You know, but I don't know what poll she's
Well,
going to have.
history is going to be much kinder to Obama than what we've seen in the last 8 years.
Yeah, I
he
think
has
so.
really
Yeah.
accomplished
Yeah.
a lot during it, and not only in terms of deficit reduction, not only in terms of unemployment, not only in terms of bailing us out of this.
Do you want me to argue
recession.
this with you? The deficit's doubled under
No,
Obama.
I just want you to.
I don't agree. I don't agree. And the problem, first of all, I think Obama is a untarnished. There were no scandals. I think he has a wonderful family. I think his heart's in the right place.
I think
and
he's absolutely ethical.
Yes, I think he's ethical. I think he'll be remembered for that. And I think that most of the American public believes that. But because he has governed in the last 6 years through executive order rather than, you know, cutting deals like Dayton's going to have to do, regularly has to cut deals, right?
Well, we'll
with
see.
The
I hope so.
But because of that, a lot of what he has done is going to get completely turned around in January, and he knows that, which is why he was pushing so hard for Hillary Clinton, you know, to win. Unusually, because presidents don't campaign like that.
You don't want your
normally.
legacy to be tarnished,
But
or to disappear.
But it's going to disappear because of the way he governed.
So-
a lot of it, and but he made that choice to govern that way through executive order.
He had no choice.
No, that's not true. Governor Dayton doesn't govern through executive order. He, in the end, negotiates, and things are passed as compromises. And there was none of that
Well,
happened. At the
I
federal
think
level.
that history is going to
So,
be kind to Obama.
I think they'll be
And-
kind to him on a personal
and,
level, but not at a
even
policy
though
level.
there are a lot of things that I was unhappy about with the Obama administration, and they were not nearly as aggressive as I would have liked in many respects. But what am I? But an old Bernie liberal. So
Yeah,
that's,
you're turning into a socialist now.
and there are some socialist programs that are good for an economy, that are good for a nation.
You know, I have to tell you, and I come at it from the libertarian right, but I have been really interested in the minimum income, the guaranteed minimum income proposal, which is a kind of a joint of the right and the left. And I come up from the libertarian sense, and that you would get rid of all social programs from unemployment to, you know, and just replace this with a general, because in there. So that's a whole other topic.
Well, we're going to see what is done with healthcare,
Yeah.
and I think healthcare is one of the things that
because of automation, because of a lot of issues.
a society really owes its constituents, its public, its people, its citizens. And as we see in Europe, even though some of the models are not perfect, they're way ahead of us in that regard.
Yeah.
I think policing is another thing. I think education is another thing. And I think...
But education doesn't need to be run by the government.
No, it shouldn't be run by the government,
You know,
but also
that's the
it
difference.
shouldn't cost a student $100,000 to get through
college.
4 years of college.
Yeah.
And what we do in that regard is we keep some really bright people from going to college. And these are things that a government owes. And we would probably agree on some things that...
We would, but the solution and the problem, the reason it exists, I mean, I go back, the college's costs have gone up, doubled I mean, I know because I have kids in college, right? And I compare it to what I paid tuition at the U.
You don't want to know what I paid.
Yeah, well, yeah. I think my mother tells me, because both my parents went to the U and they paid like $300 a year or something, $300 a semester or something like that.
I started Syracuse, it was $250 a semester.
Yeah.
And it went up to $275, and that was,
A big
to
deal.
me, the first member of the family that was going to go to college.
Yeah.
That was a big deal.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, that's another $50 a year. And,
Yeah. Yep.
as one who worked through college or
Well,
through a
both my
good part
parents
of
did
it.
too, and in that generation, you could pay the tuition with a part-time job if you lived at home. You know, back
Which
then.
I didn't.
Yeah,
Obviously,
well, they
but,
did. Well, my mother did, not my father. But because my dad's from up north, Duluth area, so
what do you think of the Electoral College?
I think it's. I don't think that it's going to change, and I think it's fine, and I understand.
Well, I think it's not going to change,
Yeah.
but it's interesting that
understand.
the popular vote is now over 2.5 million for.
It is, but
Clinton.
the reason it was set up is so that, you know, you have these heavy populated inner city areas, and it's really like maybe 6 of them across the nation, and so you get so many huge votes that they could overwhelm the rest of the country.
The
So
other
it was
side
set
of
up
the
for a
coin
reason.
is that it's disproportionately favoring small states like Wyoming.
Well, so is the U.S.
and
Senate.
Idaho.
I mean, you'd have to
I agree.
essentially change the U.S. Senate.
agree.
But it was
And,
done for a reason.
Maybe we should have a
know.
unicameral house like Nebraska does, and
Well, and the
Go from
arguments,
there.
you know, and we can argue gerrymandering, but the argument that somehow the Democrats would be in charge in Washington if we just did popular vote doesn't play out with, you know,
Well,
with
that
congressional districts.
works
'cause the
well
House
for
is
me.
so
It just
overwhelmed.
depends
Yeah,
which,
well, if
which,
you lost,
which
sure,
Democrats,
sure,
that's
sure.
all.
Yeah.
But in any event,
I mean, they're, you know,
we have a minute and a half left. Who do you see as candidates for governor on the Republican side?
a lot. It's going to be just like 2010. I think there's going to be a lot on both sides. I think the Republican endorsement process is still going to be a big deal, unlike the Democrat. You know, I think that's still going to play majorly in. You've got several legislators, obviously, that are, you know, you've got the Matt Deans and you got the Kurt Doutts and all these types that are talking about it. There's some talk about Keith Downey. There's, you know, there's lots of talk.
I have a lot of
Plenty.
doubts about Kurt, but other than that,
I don't know if he'll run. I mean, some of them will have a real hard time getting endorsed.
And
So
we're going to see Mayor Coleman in the mix now.
Really?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Well, he said he's not running again
Yeah.
for city office as of
Okay.
yesterday. So,
Lori Swanson, maybe.
among others, yes.
Yeah. I think it's going to be
Tina Smith.
Tina. It's going to be. They're going to have 20 candidates again, and it's just a question
Going
of
to be
who wins
well,
the
we'll have-
primaries.
as it gets closer, we will have to talk about it again.
Absolutely.
Pat Anderson, always a pleasure.
It's fun.
For 15 years we have jousted, and to know her is to love her.
Aw.
And it's
Thanks,
just so
Alan.
good for you to
It's
come back.
mutual. Thanks.
Thank you, my dear.
Thanks.